Hi, I'm Kitty, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sew all of the 6 stitches that you'll need to make any of our embroidery kits. So included in your kit you will get a skein of thread here that says tester on it, a needle threader, a 6-inch embroidery hoop, and you also get a sampler with 2 needles in, one big and one small. Your sampler might not be this colour and your thread might not be this colour because we use our offcuts, but it will look pretty much like this. You will also need some scissors, any scissors.
I am also using this embroidery stand just to demonstrate this to you. I don't usually use one. For me, it's much easier to have the hoop in my hand so I can sort of twist it and turn it any way I want. But some people really like these. They sort of hold the fabric for you so you can use both your hands to do anything. These are quite handy, especially when you're doing French knots. You can get them really cheaply, but you definitely don't need one. So yeah, that's up to you.
So this is what your sampler will look like completed. I did mine on the train whilst eating quite a lot of chocolate, so do watch out for that. But the 6 stitches you'll need are backstitch, whipped backstitch, chain stitch, lazy daisy stitch, satin stitch, and French knots. So if you already know how to do any of these, just fast forward to the bit you want. And if you find any of them too difficult, it doesn't matter because all of the kits come with substitutions. So if you really struggle with French knots in the kit, I'll tell you what you can substitute those stitches for. So you want to start by securing your fabric in your hoop. You want your fabric to be quite taut, which will help you sort of sew evenly. So you put the bit with no metal thing underneath, fabric on top, and then just put the big bit over the small bit like that, and then tighten it using this metal thing. So for every element of our kit you will need to use 3 strands of thread, and they come in strands of 6, so you need to separate them out. So you want to start by getting something like maybe 40 centimeters of thread and cut, and then I'm sure there is a more professional way to do this, but you need to separate them out. So what I do is I just sort of tap them like this until you can see all the 6 separate strands, and then I just really gently pull them apart. If you do that too quickly or too aggressively, it will get tangled, so just be really gentle. Then you've got your strand of 3 threads. And the next thing you need to do is to tie a knot. The way I tie a knot is I get it around my finger like this, wrap it once, roll it down and pull. So it makes a knot like that. But you could also just tie a double knot. The next thing you need to do is thread your needle. So either just do that in the obvious way, or we've also given you a needle threader. So the way needle threaders work is you put the needle threader through the end of the needle, like this. So it's sort of hanging off. Then thread your needle just through that and pull the needle off. So it's through. So the first stitch I'm going to show you is backstitch, which is this outline here. This is the easiest stitch. You probably already know it or have used it in your life, or maybe not, but it basically just creates this strong solid line, but you can still see the stitches. So for a backstitch, all you do is you get your needle, you start anywhere because it's a circle, but start at the beginning of the line that you want to go over. Bring your needle up through, and then a standard stitch is maybe about 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters. You put your needle back down through there and pull, and then you literally just go round, up and then down where you came from. Up and down. I'm not sure really what other tips I can give you here. Just try and stay on the line. Something to remember for all of our kits is that the black lines that the pattern is printed on won't come out. They don't wash out like some embroidery kits. So it's always better to go right over the line instead of outside it or inside it, because otherwise you'll be able to see it in the finished piece. Okay, so now you can see that I'm coming to the end of my thread. There's not very much thread left, and you want to leave it until it's about this long. You don't want to go until there's absolutely no thread left, because then you won't have enough to finish it off. So I'm seeing that I need to start a new thread here. So what I'm going to do is just do one last stitch down, then to finish it off, and this is the same with all stitches, turn your hoop over like this, and where you are, just do 1 or 2 really small stitches at the back, trying to be careful not to go through the front of the fabric. Just do a couple of small stitches like that to make a knot. So it's like that, and then cut it, and you want to cut it quite short, because otherwise if you have this hanging off your piece it will make knots. And then you literally just start a new thread. So you make a knot, remember it has to be 3 strands, thread the needle, and just pick up where you left off. I'm only going to show you half of this, because otherwise it'll be quite boring, but obviously you just go all the way around and finish it. And then you finish off your thread again. So just a couple of stitches like that, and cut. So the second stitch I'm going to show you is whipped backstitch. Again, it's super easy. You basically just do a backstitch like we did in the last one, and then with another thread you go around and twist it around all the stitches so you can't see them. So it makes the line even stronger than a backstitch. And because it uses 2 different threads, you can either do it with just one colour, like I've done here, which just makes this very, very strong line, or you can do it with 2 colours, so backstitch one colour and then whipping it around with another colour, which makes a kind of stripy effect. So remember, if you're using the thread that you used for this one, you need to tie another knot in it, otherwise it will pull through. So just tie a knot, and as I said, you start this stitch off in exactly the same way that you did this one. So you come up through, down, maybe about 3 millimeters apart part the stitches and you just go all the way round in a back stitch.
So I've done my line of backstitch, and then the second step to the whip backstitch is with another thread of 3 strands. You go up from where you started your line through the same hole, pull it through, and then you just want to twist the thread through your stitches like this. And it's as easy as that, really. The only thing to remember is to always go from the same side. So either in to out or out to in, it doesn't matter. Because if you start now going from out to in, it will leave a gap. Sometimes your thread will get stuck on the metal thing of the hoop. So I would recommend, which is not what I'm doing now, try and position this metal thing, I don't know what it's called, on the other side of where you're stitching. That will just stop the thread getting caught on it, which is just irritating. And then to finish it, exactly the same, just go through where you want to go through, like that. Small stitches to make a knot. So the next stitch I'll show you is the chain stitch, called, obviously, because it looks like a chain. This is maybe one of the trickier ones, but once you get the hang of it, it's fine. Again, if you've struggled with this one, you can always substitute it for a different one, like a whip backstitch. So as always, you got your strand of 3 threads, make a knot, and thread your needle. You want to come up on the line where you want to start, pull it all the way through, and I always find it easier to hold this bit of the thread to stop it getting muddled up. Then you get your needle and you put it back through the hole that you first came into and pull it almost all the way through. So you get a little loop like this. Then get your needle and again, like 3mm up from there, you pull it like that. So it makes a little loop, and that's your first chain link. So again, for the second one, get your needle, put it through the hole that you came up, pull almost all the way down, up, and pull. So very, very irritatingly, I have just realised that I've recorded the next 2 stitches and thought I was pressing play on my video, but was in fact pressing stop. So we can turn this into a lesson on how to unpick. So if you do make a mistake, which everyone does, and it also doesn't matter if you make a small mistake, because no one will notice. But if you do make a big mistake, like me, and you want to unpick, you need to get your scissors. And for this, embroidery scissors will help. If you've got big kitchen scissors, they just will be too big. So I'm going to unpick this. And what I'm going to do is literally just very gently go through and snip all my stitches. We've given you enough thread for you to be able to make some mistakes, but obviously you don't want to be unpicking all of your work because you won't have enough thread. But if you do make a mistake, you just want to cut through like that, turn your piece over and cut through the back as well. Or they should just come out. Just pull out the threads like that, just being quite gentle. You can sometimes use your needle to help you with threads that are a bit trickier. So you get the back of your needle and just pull through any threads that don't want to come. The good thing about embroidery is that you can just make loads of mistakes and unpick it, and it's just fine. Okay, there we go. Valuable lesson. So for the second time for me and first time for you, I'm going to show you how to do the lazy daisy stitch, which is basically really similar to the chain stitch. So if you can do a chain stitch, you can definitely do this. And they're basically like singular little loops, which are really good for petals or... So for lazy daisy stitch, I've given you 2 dots here to give you a marker to teach you how to do it. You won't necessarily have these 2 dots on your actual kits, but it will just be obvious where to go from the pictures. So you want to start by coming in through the inside dot, pulling it out, holding this down through the same hole you came up through, and up through the outside dot, and secure it like that. You want this second stitch, the one that secures the loop, pull it quite gently, because if you pull it really tight like this, the loop gets pulled through and it just becomes a sort of line as opposed to a loop. If you do that, just use the back of your needle to pull it back out, and then you'll be able to see the loop. So just inside dot, pull it through, down and up on the outside dot, and a little stitch to secure it. Okay, so something that's happened here is you can see one of the strands of thread is kind of bigger than the other 2. That's because I was careless and made a mistake. If that happens, just use your needle like this to make it big again, and try and straighten it out by pulling it through, and then go back down, and that should sort it out. There we go, that's done, and you should have a line of little loops like this, a little couple of stitches like that, and cut. So the next stitch is the satin stitch, which is this one. This is really one of the easiest ones. It's basically like colouring in. I've used it here for this thick line, but I also use it loads to fill in shapes. So with the satin stitch, it's especially important to remember that these black lines are not going to come off. So always go outside the black line So I wouldn't start here. I would start here, because otherwise you'll be able to see the black line. So come up through the outside and then down through the inside, and then you basically just want to go round and round your shape to fill it in. It might be tempting when you're doing this stitch to, once you've pulled your thread through, come up on this side, the side that you've just come down, instead of this side, because it will save thread. But I wouldn't recommend doing that, because it will mean that your thread will get twisted and it won't look neat. If you go by accident, you go too far like this and you've missed a bit, just go back and redo it, filling in all the gaps. Doesn't matter if you go over yourself a couple of times, you won't be able to see it. So just as long as there's no free space in your shape, and there you go. You should end up with a really nice solid line. It does take a little bit of time, the satin stitch, but it's pretty mindless, so it's one of my faves. The last stitch I'm going to show you is French knots, which are these little dots here. These are definitely the hardest ones that we use. Some people absolutely hate them. If you don't want to do them, you can substitute them for singular small back stitches. I would say that if you're going to use French knots in your piece, do practice them if you're new to them, because especially if your piece is going to be made into a cushion or something that's handled quite a lot, they need to be quite tight. Otherwise they'll come unraveled. And it's very hard to sort of go back and redo them. So this is how you do French knots. I haven't given you any dots here or markers, because the knots are so small that you'll be able to see the markers underneath. And that's the same for our kits. It's kind of just freehand, do them wherever you want. So you come up with your needle, again, strand of 3, tie a knot, You come up wherever you want, pull your needle all the way through. Then you hold this thread, you get your needle and you wrap it round once, like that. And then you come down, and this is where I was going wrong for a really long time. You don't go back down through the hole that you came through. You go a tiny bit to the side, like that. Hold this taut and pull through to make a knot, like that. So you go up, round, down, not through the same hole, and then pull through like that. French knots are the only stitch where an embroidery stand like this is handy, because it's quite useful to have 2 hands. You can do it easily, not with an embroidery hoop, but you need to find a way to get your to be able to free up this hand. Or some geniuses can do it with only just 1 hand, but it's way more tricky. So up, twist round once, and down. If you wanted to do a bigger knot, you twist the thread round more times like that, but my ones never really work, so I just stick with one. So up, round, down, and pull. They need to be really sort of tight and flush against the fabric, otherwise they'll unravel. So as you're pulling it down, make sure the knot is sitting right on the fabric as you pull it down. Because if you do it like this and the knot's up here, it won't work so well. So just make sure the knot's close up. This is what will often happen. I lost concentration there and I pulled the knot through like that. So when you're pulling it down, you really want to be gentle, because otherwise it will just come through. This is linen that we're embroidering on, so the holes in the fabric, I'm not quite sure what they're called, are relatively big as opposed to if you were doing it on cotton or something. So you just need to be firm but gentle. Oh, and then look, there's the knot that I made. So if that happens, just pull it back out. So round, down, and pull. So for French knots, you don't have the back looks like this with all of these quite loose threads. So I would recommend finding a different thread. So for example, this satin stitch, which is really secure and tight, and finishing off through there instead of through your French knots threads, otherwise it will become loose. So like that, and cut. So there you go, there are your 6 stitches. So there you go, there are your 6 stitches. I haven't written the stitch names on there because I think this actually could be quite a nice standalone piece. Hang it in your bathroom if you wanted. But hopefully I've explained that well. I don't know how good I am at explaining, but if you do have any questions, then just let us know and we can help you. And hopefully it all makes sense.